Good morning here in Iceland, good afternoon in China and Korea. So we're just about to start this annual general meeting, but we're going to give our shareholders a couple of minutes. People are coming into the office, so we'll start formally in like 2 to 3 minutes. So if you want to grab a coffee or have a drink, then use the opportunity until, well, right now. As I said, we'll start in 2 minutes. Okay, I hope everybody got their coffee or drink, and then we'll proceed and start this annual general meeting formally. So I wanted to announce that the meeting was rightfully called according to the Articles of Association. That is done with 14 days of notice at least, and we did it with 15 days of notice, and it was done electronically as the articles allow. I can confirm that we have over 50% attendance, so the meeting is lawfully set. So we need to start by appointing a chairman of the meeting, and I'm offering myself to that altar. If you agree to that, then I will chair the meeting. Anybody? Okay. Then my first job as chairman of the meeting is to appoint the secretary of the meeting, and I appoint my brother, Guðmundur, as secretary of the meeting. Then we have both a chairman and the secretary of the meeting. The agenda, well, maybe to start with, for those that are not here with us, we are streaming this meeting, and for those that have questions that are watching the stream, please send my brother, Guðmundur, at 1939Games.com. The email link is also in the meeting invite, and when we are approving or rejecting what's happening in the meeting, then you need to use this email, and Guðmundur will watch the email, and if there are some questions, he will then read them up and will answer them accordingly. So I just, the link, it is Guðmundur at 1939Games.com, but the link is also in the meeting invite, so you can click that if you have questions later on in the meeting or after the meeting when we do the company presentation. So the meeting agenda is a regular annual general meeting agenda according to Articles of Association and other business lawfully brought to the meeting. There are no other topics put forward to the meeting. And here are the regular AGM agenda according to the articles. The company boards of directors shall report to the company's operations during the past year and its financial status at year end. Then we go to the company's financial statement for the past year, and the auditors and that needs to be submitted for approval. Then we have the decision of how to handling the profit or loss, and then a decision made on concerning payments to the board members. The company board director shall be elected, and the company auditing firm shall be elected, and then just discussions and voting for other matters that are put to the meeting. So we'll start with topic number 1. The company's board of directors shall report on the company's operations during the past year and its financial status at year end, and Hekla Arnardóttir, our chairman, she will present that report. Thank you.
Good morning and good afternoon. The year in 2022 was very exciting as usual for 1939Games, and here are some of the highlights of the year. The company continued to develop cards, which was launched for PC on Steam in April 2020 and is now available on the Epic Store Stove in Korea and on 1939's own launcher. Card has attracted over 1.1 million players in over 140 countries and generated over $4.5 million in total revenues. The main focus in the development last year was preparing cards for the mobile launch. This is scheduled in June this year. The company set up a mobile development studio in Helsinki, and today 6 of the 21 employees are in the Helsinki office. It is great to see the PC team and mobile team merge into one stellar team, bringing out one product that will be played both on PC and mobile. The company's share capital was 3,312,967 nominal shares, and the company's assets were $7.8 million at the end of year. The company loss in the last operating year was $976,000, but the company is in a strong financial situation with current assets over $3.3 at year end. With the mobile launch this year, the revenue is expected to double, and the company will be generating a strong mobile user acquisition starting in 2023 and taking place in 2024. The 1939Games team and cards has raised the awareness of some of the biggest players in the gaming industry that are interested in having 1939Game do a CCG based on their strong IP. Our CEO will tell you more about this in the company presentation after the AGM. Before the CEO takes over, I would like to thank Ivar, Guðmundur, and the whole team, my fellow board members, and all shareholders of this company for the contribution and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Hekla. And as I mentioned before, I mean, those that are not here are watching the stream. They can post questions to Guðmundur at 1939games.com, and he will watch over his email and post the questions if and when they arise. So then we go to the next topic of the agenda. That is going over the financial statements, and I will do that, and I will also I have a suggestion that we approve the financial statements with agenda topic number 3, which is the following: a decision shall be made as to the handling of profit or loss and about dividend and contribution to the reserve fund. So we will approve these together, topic number 2 and topic number 3. So the financial statements, as usual, have been done by KPMG. They have been an auditor since we started this journey, and the endorsement by the board of the directors. So maybe one thing to add, we did not print out any financial statements, but those of you that are here, and of course those that are on the stream, if you like to have them, I will send you an electronic version. So the endorsement by the board, some of the things that Tekla already mentioned, we generated around $1 million in revenue, and the game has generated over $4.5 million in revenue total. The company received an R&D refund grant for about $663,000, which is similar as last year. So there is a system in place here in Iceland where we get 35% of our R&D refunded, and that is very important for the gaming industry here. And there is one also change between last year and this year. In the previous years, we have been doing our audits or our books in ISK, Icelandic kroners, but now we moved over to dollars. So when you're looking at the share capital, then you see it has changed to $25,400 from the 3.3 million ISK nominal value. So the shares are in Icelandic kroner nominal value, so that is the amount of shares you see in the share capital registry. We are looking at some companies that have changed from ISK to US accounting. They've also changed the shares, which makes sense, and I'm looking into that with KPMG, and so maybe if you have a shareholder meeting sometime later this year or in the next annual general meeting, we might actually swap over to $2. It's just a legal and technical thing, but it makes sense, to have everything in the same currency. We have 29 shareholders at the year end, which is basically the same shareholders at the beginning of the year. There have been no changes, and here are listed the 10 biggest shareholders of the company. The auditor's report is fairly standard. I just want to point out to our foreign investors that we are doing the financial statement according to the Icelandic Financial Statement Act from 2006, which is IS GAAP. Then we'll just we'll start with the income statement and then we'll go through the balance sheet. So sales were just over 1 million, similar as last year. I think this is actually pretty decent, given that we were focusing more or less last year on bringing the game and preparing the game for the mobile launch. So we did not do a lot of new content, and new content is the biggest revenue driver. So I was pretty happy with the outcome of the year, given how little content we created for the game. That will change this year. There will be a lot more focus on new content and monetization, and I will go through that in the presentation after the AGM. As I mentioned earlier, we got a grant about $663,000. That's similar as last year, and that is really the Icelandic government has been pushing for helping out the gaming industry specifically, and this has been really well accepted, and we see that there are a lot of gaming companies flourishing in Iceland these days, which will be interesting to watch and see how that develops in the near future. So our operating income, we actually net the grant against the development, capitalized development costs, so the net operating income is $1 million. Cost of goods sold, these are mainly expenses or cost to Valve or Steam. We are paying 30% of our income to there, so that the biggest chunk of this goes to Steam. And of course there are some operating expenses there and some hosting and bandwidth, etc. Salary related expenses grow a little bit. We've been growing the team a bit over the year, and as Hekla mentioned, we've been setting up a studio in Helsinki, and we have now 6 employees there. And there is a good opportunity for us to grow there in the future, because there is just a bigger talent pool in Helsinki than here. So it's at least good to have, we can both grow here in Iceland and in Helsinki. And as Hekla also mentioned, I mean, we've been merging the teams to start with. The Helsinki team was only focusing on the mobile part, but now basically we are becoming a mobile first studio, so it is a single team in 2 countries. Operating expenses, this includes the office in Helsinki, but this is all, it's housing, marketing, and licensing, art outsourcing, program outsourcing, etc. And that is similar to last year, just over $1 million. Depreciation, I mean, we have been capitalizing our development cost from start. And when we launched the game back in 2020, we started to depreciate also part of the capitalized development cost. And now there is some kind of balance. We are always depreciating, but we are also adding new capitalized development cost. And you see here that it was 1.8 million, and we are depreciating 900,000. So operating expenses is 1.9 million, a bit higher than last year, which reflects that we've been growing the company a bit. So operating loss before net finance expenses, 911,000, and then as I mentioned earlier, we changed our accounting from ISK to dollar. As most of you know, there's a lot of fluctuation usually with the Icelandic krona against foreign currencies, and so we see here some fluctuation in foreign exchange difference, but we are actually, because we did a funding round back in 2021 in dollars, we have basically kept the dollars more or less. I mean, we just change what we need for the coming months to ISK or euros, but we are not doing any speculative foreign trade, exchange. So we'll see this here. It can go up and down. It bit depends on how the status is with the krona, but it's not really affecting us that much because a lot of our costs is also in dollars. And of course, our revenue is mainly in dollars. That's why we basically decided to do the books and accounting in dollars. And of course, as time goes by, the krona and other currencies will have less value because all our user acquisition will be done in dollars, and all our revenue is mostly in dollars. We have a subsidiary in Helsinki, and this is basically, when we set up the subsidiary, we had to put in some capital, and this is the initial capital, but the setup is basically that they bill us on a month-by-month basis, just on the cost. So there's not a lot of investment, initial investment in the office. Loss of the year, $976,000. And EBITDA, we have a positive EBITDA. That's because we are capitalizing our development cost, and that goes down from 150,000 to 53,000 this year. Then we go to the balance sheet. Operating assets, I mean, those are basically desks and computers, etc. That is the smallest part of our assets. The biggest asset is our capitalized development cost. That's 4.4 million, and of course the small investment in the subsidiary. The current assets, This is basically our war chest. We have current receivables. The biggest part of this is the grant, R&D grant from the government. And then these are also the December revenue that is paid in January, and some VAT, etc. We had some 2.5 million or close to 2.5 million in the bank, and you see that our bank funds or cash is going down a bit, and you see it in the cash flow statement later on how that goes. But we've basically drawn $1.7 million on our cash during the year. I already mentioned also the changes in the share capital, that it's shown now in dollars, but we have the nominal shares in ISK. So they go from 3.3 million to $25,000, and the share premium is $9.4 million. There's a restriction equity, 4.4. It's basically growing because the loss of the year is added to the restricted equity from last year. So we cannot pay dividend on this amount. And accumulated deficit is $6.4 million and equity is 7.4. So trade payables, I mean, these are just the standard trade payables. They go a bit down from last year. When we have, vendors and contractors, they bill us in January for December, so this is just that goes over the end of the year. And related party payables, that is our office in Helsinki, and other payables, this is salary, taxes, accrued vacation, pension funds, etc. So that was the end of the year, and total equity and liabilities are 7.8 million. So just quickly running through the statement of cash flows. As mentioned before, $970,000 in loss, and the depreciation, $964,000. And this is, as I mentioned, this is basically the cash we used to get through the year. Even if it's a $900,000 operating loss, then this is the cash we used because we're capitalizing the development cost. And this is just the paid in capital. So the changes here are from last year when we were doing the 2021 accounts. Then of course we did the $5.3 million funding round in end of September 2021. And so this is the share premium of that part of that investment, 5.2 million. And we didn't do any funding round this year, but we have the related parties coming in as a new line this year. So we used 1.7 million or close to $1.8 million, and you see that the cash goes down from 4.2 million to 2.5. That said, we also have the receivables, 830,000. So that is our basically more or less cash status, 3.3. I'm not really going through the notes. I mean, they're fairly standard, but if there are any questions, you can post them here. Guðmundur will watch over his email, and I'll give people maybe 1 minute to post some questions. If not, then we'll basically go for a voting, how to basically approve the accounts and how to handle the loss of the year. I can basically read up the proposal. The proposal for agenda topic number 3 on how to handle the profit or loss of the year. Obviously, we have loss of the year. And the proposal is no dividends will be paid this year, no reserve funds created, and the loss of the fiscal year 2022, put in the accumulated deficit in the balance sheet and approve the financial statement as previously presented. So this will go for voting, and I'll give the people that are watching the stream maybe 1.5 minutes. No emails yet. No. So the people here in the room, are you approving this proposal? Raise your hands. Everybody approves, and we'll give the people watching the stream maybe 1 minute, and then we'll move to the next agenda topic. Nothing happening in your inbox, Guðmundur?
Checking for mail,
Yeah. Okay.
Let's account for 20 seconds latency on the internet, so that we don't close. That's like 1 cup of coffee, isn't it?
Oh.
It is. It is, exactly. Exactly. Good point. It's all happening. You can measure the time in cups of coffee.
Yeah, yeah. So there is a queue by the coffee machine here. We'll give people the opportunity to grab a coffee.
Sisu approves.
Okay.
Summary.
Yeah, good.
Maybe you can announce it, or if you want to announce it.
Oh, yeah.
But he used Messenger, so it's only he can vote. It's supposed to be email.
Heyrðu, þá máttu setja bara hljóð á.
Já, hljóðið á.
Okay, so some of our investors watching the stream have approved, but nobody has objected, so this is approved anonymously.
Approved from Aðalsteinn Óttarsson.
Yeah, we don't need to go through all the approvals. Okay, so next topic on the agenda, decisions shall be made on concerning payments to the members of the Board of Directors for their work during the year of operations. There is the proposal to keep it as it has been and not paying directors of the board any compensation. So this is then put out for approval. Those here in the office, raise your hands if you approve, and we'll give those that are watching the stream like 1 minute to either approve or reject. If I don't hear anything, I assume they are approving it. So if you are not approving, then you need to reject this. And then the coffee machine goes on, and when the coffee machine goes off, then we can go to the next voting.
This is very convenient.
This as well.
No objections, Guðmundur, coming. Then I announce this proposal approved anonymously, and we'll move to the next topic. The company's board of directors shall be elected in a writing if so requested by at least one shareholder. This is the proposal. The proposal basically is re-election of the current board of directors as listed below. Hekla Arnardóttir, current chairman of the board, Ívar Kristjánsson, myself, Reynir Harðarson, who is here with us, Sang-woo Park in Korea, and Sigurður Ólafsson as well here in the office. So I put this proposal up for voting. Those here, please raise your hands if you approve. And those that are watching the stream, I'll give you 1 minute to reject. If you don't reject, I assume that you're approving as well this proposal. So we'll give you 1 minute or so.
No objections?
Gummi, vatnið. Já, þannig. So Guðmundur is not only the secretary of the meeting, he's also becoming a coffee barista and is doing very well. So
Well, it's not concluded yet.
We have the internet hanging on a thread.
yeah. So we're taking a little longer time voting because Guðmundur is making coffee for a very important shareholder. Guðmundur, any objections to the proposal? Okay, then I announce this proposal approved anonymously. Then we go to the next topic of the agenda. The company's auditing firm shall be elected, and there is the proposal of nominating the company's accountant and auditing firm that shall be unchanged from last year. Jón Arnar Óskarsson and KPMG is proposed as the company's accountant and auditing firm. Please raise your hands, those that approve, and we'll give the people following the stream, or investors that follow the stream, like 1 minute. And if they don't reject, then I assume this has been approved anonymously. So Guðmundur is watching over his email, and we'll see what happens. It's really exciting. Guðmundur, no objections so far?
No objections so far, no approval, no.
Then I announce this proposal approved anonymously. And I'll notify Jón Arnar and KPMG that we continue to work with them. Then basically we are at the final agenda topic, discussion and voting of other matters lawfully submitted for discussion. There are no other matters submitted for discussion, but the floor is open if anybody wants to say something, or if there are some questions to be asked, then the time is now. Anybody here in the office that has some questions or want to step into the podium and say a few words? If not, the floor is also open for questions or through the email, gudmundur@1939games.com. We'll give it 1 minute, and if there's nothing there, then basically I can adjourn the meeting and we'll go into the company presentation. So let's give it 1 minute. Anything, Guðmundur, in your inbox?
No.
Okay, then this was the final topic of this AGM. So I thank you all for attending, and those here in the office and you on the stream, and meeting adjourned. Thank you. Then you go to the more juicy part. This is always much more fun than going through the accounts. Yeah, so as we've done in the past, we always had some form of a company update or company presentation after AGM, and we are doing the same this year. So I'll just walk you through this, and we can have the same format. If you have questions during or after, you can send to Gudmundur at 1939games.com. He will monitor his inbox, but also you're always welcome to pick me later, and you know, either just after this session we can set up a session, or just send me some questions on email. And also, as I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to get a version of the financial statement, then I can send that to you in email. But the company update, as Hekla, our chairman, mentioned, we seem to have raised some awareness in the industry, and from quite big players. I can definitely state these are big players in the industry. So two big, it's quite funny actually, two big Asian gaming giants contacted us within 5 days and asked us to make a CCG based on their very strong IP. These are investors. No, these are big gaming companies from Asia, and they have actually quite different games, but both very strong IPs. I can unfortunately not reveal who they are because we are under an NDA, but both proposals or discussions are very interesting, I think, and it will definitely change, of course, the course of the company quite a lot, because we need to grow. We need to at least double in size and even more. And the discussion have all been around creating an CCG based on their IPs, and with we immediately discussed that we were not interested in being like a gun for hire. It would need to be a licensing, IP licensing deal, or a very close IP collaboration with a healthy revenue share for us. And so what we've been discussing with both of these companies is that they pay quite a hefty sum upfront in prepaid royalties, and then we have also discussed that they will make a direct investment into the company. So basically the goal would be to be fully funded for a project like this, and we are assuming for us to create a game on this scale, that it will take $5 to $7 million, and we need to secure that funding. So if this happens, and we should see, I mean, we've been in discussion since late last year. If this happens, then we would probably do a funding round. These players, or one of them, would then become an investor in the company, but we would probably open up also for other investors to participate in that round. Yeah, so we actually have an initial draft of a term sheet from one of these companies. They are a bit ahead of the other one, and we have discussed the terms, at the board level, but I've also discussed these terms with some of our bigger shareholders individually, and for instance Tencent, which I'm representing, and they all agree that these are quite favorable terms. So it's interesting to see how things progress from here. But I think this is something we should see before the summer if this pans out or not. So that is the goal. So exciting times, and as I said, if we come to an agreement with one of these companies, then I'm pretty sure we'll probably do a funding round, so we will call a shareholder meeting then either in the summer or in the fall, during the summer or the fall. There are actually more companies interested working for us and have asked us to well, one other international big company that has also asked us if we can do a CCG. That is a bit in the starting points, but there was also another quite big company that asked us to do a Web3 CCG. So there is quite a lot of interest, and it shows us that cards has really positioned itself as a high quality game in this genre. Yeah, then I'll go a bit through the development update. As mentioned before, I mean, we are on the way of launching the game on mobile this summer or before the summer, this spring. And we did quite a hefty mobile beta test in the end of the year or in November. We had some over 13,000 players participating, and we got a lot of data, which is quite promising. And we also, it gave us reassurance what we needed to fix, etc. And of course pointed out some new things we needed to focus on. So that is really, we've been in the position every year that this is the year, you know, this is the biggest year so far, and that is really exciting because we are always building up excitement and opportunities for the future. And I think, I mean, I talk for all of us here in the company that the mobile version is the biggest opportunity for this company. So at the beginning of the year, we got the key people from Helsinki to Iceland, and we did an offsite in Selfoss, where we basically laid down the roadmap for the year. It is a quite aggressive timeline, but we are still on track, so we are looking at launching the mobile version in June. But we also have been putting out a lot of, we will be putting out a lot of new content this year. So we will, you know, we should see that also in our monetization and revenues throughout the year, compared to very little content and little basically focus on monetization last year. One of the biggest challenges of basically going out with the mobile version is the UI or user interface, changing that. I mean, even if we, you know, we were always designing the game, being a cross-platform game, then we were working on a PC, and sometimes you forget a little bit the things that you need to have when it comes to mobile. And of course, we did not really have the expertise, the mobile expertise that we have now added to the company through our team in Helsinki. So we have mobile specialists on the team, you know, both on the design, programming, and UI UX level. So that is really important. And we just released, I think last week or the week before, the new UI on PC. And we are now gathering feedback on that, but it looks very promising, and the store and everything, it is, we are getting very close to becoming mobile ready when it comes to the UI. One of the things also that we are changing, and it is a bit of a drastic change, and we really wanted to do this before we went out on mobile. When you have a card game, you cannot just, you know, add endless cards to the game, because at some point players just lose oversight of you know, if the game becomes too big. We have now roughly 800 cards in the game, and we're coming to the upper level of that. So we need to start to phasing out cards and adding new cards in. And some cards will be reintroduced in the same form or a different form. And This is, I mean, most of the digital collectible card games, they do this, and we really wanted to do this before we went out on mobile and grew our audience quite a lot. We need to compensate for this because we're taking out cards from players, and that is a bit of a sensitive topic. So we will be compensating them for that. But this is quite a complex project, but we are well along into this project, and there will be a system, that you can, if you buy a card, then you're sure that it will not be phased out, for the next year or so, and those cards that are going to be phased out, there will be a warning if you try to buy them, so you see exactly what happens. And actually, those cards that will be phased out, you can actually use them for some game modes, but not for the competitive game mode. So it's not like you don't own them anymore, but you cannot use them for the competitive part of the game. We've also been, we need to up our game quite a lot when it comes to monetization. I mean, mobile games are much more aggressive when it comes to mobilization, and we are taking that step these days. And the shop is really an important part of monetization, and being able to have tailored offers depending on where you are in the game or how you are behaving, etc. And also creating this urgency that there is there are some offers and there are some items in the store, and there is a countdown. You see that this item will only be available for the next 5 days. So if you don't buy it now, you might need to wait for a few months until you can buy it next time. So this creates a bit of the urgency for you to take up the wallet. And this is in line, I mean, we're just looking at what the games that we think are doing it the best way. We are basically inspired by them. And of course, the look and feel needs to be very accessible for the mobile. So we are actually we are quite far along with the design. We just need to implement it. And as I said, mobile is coming. The release date is June 6th, which is D-Day. It's a historical date. But when I talk about mobile release, I mean, we will, when we release the game, we'll start doing some user acquisition, and we'll start doing some, we'll be looking at KPIs, and then we'll grow the user acquisition over time when we see the KPIs are good. But I'm expecting that we'll be fine-tuning and tweaking the game a bit throughout the year, and then we'll go in hardcore UA mode early next year. But as mentioned before, we are expecting our revenues to at least double this year, just due to the fact that we are opening up for mobile. Even if we're not doing a lot of user acquisition throughout the year, we will be doing some, but also we're just adding a lot of content and to the PC version, which our players are waiting for. And of course, we expect to grow the PC version as well. Brothers in Arms, this is the summer expansion that will be followed shortly after the mobile release, end of June, and we will have 92 new unique cards for all nations. We will have some new mechanics, and we're adding a lot of new usual effects. And there is one keyword there that we are using, and part of the new mechanics is veteran, which is an interesting concept. When you are at war or you have your units, then you can beef them up based on what you have on the table and their experience. So that is going to be an interesting new mechanic for the game. But the main thing is that we're adding 92 new cards to the table, which will hopefully, and I'm pretty sure, get people to take up their wallet and invest in those cards. So the latter half of the year, it will be mobile hardening, UA testing, retention and monetization focus. Then we'll have the winter expansion, late November or early December, and the World Championship. These are the big or focus points of the year. And as you see, those here in the office, the roadmap, these two first half of the year and second half of the year, they are here in front of everybody's eyes every day, and we regularly look at them and see if they are on track or not. And so far, so good. So now I go to one thing of launching on mobile and of course making the expansions again is we need to do some trailers. And that work has already started, like the conceptual part of that work, and we've been licensing some music and stuff to prepare for that work. So that will be exciting. So until then, we have our good old release trailer. I'm going to show that now. Yeah. It always gives me a bit of a goosebumps, you know, Vera Lynn and we meet again.
We're also gonna update this one because it has been working well for us, and we have all these entrance people that we assume that will see it, that haven't seen it, so we're gonna modernize this one a little bit instead of just creating a new one. So it will have like at the end, of course, not only available on Steam, but also
Mobile.
some of the gameplay footage will be updated to a more modern.
High FPS.
Yes, yeah. It's also because it's such an iconic song, and it costs a lot to license it, so it's efficient to just upgrade it.
We also just licensed Glenn Miller.
Yeah, also Glenn Miller songs.
Yes.
That can't have been expensive.
No, it was actually not that expensive. But
not for within the game,
no.
but we tried to license, for example, In the Mood for a trailer, and that was like immediately $50,000 or something.
It's cheaper to do it in the game than for marketing purposes.
Nothing which Alta Music has. No, they sold.
So Guðmundur, if there are any questions from the people watching the stream, the email is open, and if there are any questions here, there is a mic over there that you can post the question.
Exciting times ahead of 39 games. One question here, you mentioned that there were potential two partnership with Asian players.
Oh.
Would it be possible to do a partnership with both of them? Or?
Of course it would be possible, but I think It would be challenging. I mean, it is challenging, and this is, I'm talking from experience here, it is challenging to double the size of the company in a short time, and taking on 2 really big projects would be just more risky, but it's definitely possible. But that is definitely something we would be looking at, but if you want to minimize the risk, then you would only take 1 big project on at a time. Any more questions? Guðmundur, anything in the email?
Question from Aðalsteinn Rúnar Óttarsson.
Okay.
Mobile user acquisition strategy. In the current post-IDFA world, where mobile user acquisition has never been more challenging, can you elaborate on what the mobile UA strategy for this summer launch will be, and who in the company is leading user acquisitions?
Yeah, we have Ingo Ivarsson, our CMO, and Mika Levo, who is a mobile user acquisition specialist in Helsinki. They will lead that. But of course, these are a bit more challenging time when it comes to user acquisition, and that is why we're using the latter half of the year to understand and make the strategy for the big splash next year. We have some. We are discussing with some partners that have some tools that can help us in achieving our goals. But this will be a challenge, definitely. And as I said, that's why we will be taking small steps in the beginning until we are sure we can take bigger steps. So we are using the rest of the year after launch to fine-tune and understanding that part better. But we have, as I said, Ingo, our Chief Marketing Officer, and Mika Levo, our Growth Manager in Helsinki. Mika has years of experience with mobile gaming and apps, bringing them to the market. So we are in as good hands as we can be when it comes to that. But if Aðalsteinn has some magic formula, then or anybody in the audience, then of course contact us. Any other questions?
Not yet, please.
Then I think we just close the meeting. I thank you all for coming and attending, both those here in the office and on the stream. And I'm really looking forward to this year. As I said earlier, this year will be the biggest so far as the years before. But it will be really interesting to see how mobile pans out, and our current players are waiting eagerly, both for the mobile version, but also the new content that's on the way in the summer and winter expansion. Thank you very much.